Hi, everybody, and welcome to this workshop. It's really exciting to have you all here. And this event is a partnership between the individual membership and kind of youth desk of URI. And so it's really exciting. I want to say thank you, Ezra, for initiating this event and saying, could we do something on International Youth Day? It is, as I just said, International Youth Day. So happy International Youth Day to all of you as people who are young people and work with young people and for young people. And just the spirit of youth, I think, is really felt today. Hi, Sally, welcome. So the intention of the workshop and the space was really that we had an event during World Unity Week that many of you were at and were a part of, which was called Let's Talk, What Does Meaningful Youth Participation Look Like? And we dive deep into, well, we had 4 speakers engaging with Noella Richards from UNDP, who engaging on the topic of what meaningful youth engagement looks like and means. Samira was the brain behind that event as well. And so thank you, Samira, for that. And it's really kicked off what we think is an important conversation in URI and in interfaith spaces of how we can continue to really kind of make sure that we are engaging and working with young people in an authentic and meaningful way. And so we are going to show, well, firstly, Ezra, would you like to say hello and anything from your side as a word of welcome?
Yeah, so I'm Ezra Fairley Collins. I'm the coordinator of the individual membership program with URI. I'm just so grateful to be with all of you today for this program. And thank you, Sarah, for all your hard work in putting this together with me. We're really excited for the topical discussions and for us to really come together and actually dive deeper, as Sarah said, into particular topics. And so, yeah, just thank you all for being here today. And so we wanted to kick things off by starting with just a recap of the last event. And so I'm going to share a video with you all of a highlights reel, for lack of a better word, of our last event.
Just to imagine us sitting around a table, having a cup of coffee, and actually talking about the challenges that youth activists encounter in their daily engagement, because ever so often we hear young people speaking at very important events and conferences. We hear them giving keynote speeches, we see them getting awards, but we actually want to see what's there left to be done in order to enhance that meaningful participation. What's the next step? How can we all together take this further? Not just as youth, as one part of the population, but this is a question for all of us. How can we all together create spaces for youth to be engaged in meaningful way in all the processes and in our society, pretty much.
For example, for me, meaningful youth participation would be when youth is involved in all stages of planning, decision-making, executing. And if we take any small initiative, especially in times of COVID, we had an initiative where we were trying to get hospital beds and oxygen cylinders to people in need. So we had created online communities where people could reach out to us. But we needed some form of validation, if not from the government, or we needed some form of validation from organizations. So people know that this is a safe space, they can reach out to us and they will get what they need. And it was very difficult convincing officials about this because, one, they don't believe that youngsters have good ideas. 2, they don't believe that social media could be used in such a positive way.
And there has been a very critical conversation that we need to have, whether inclusivity is really just having someone. like a young person, or even us having this conversation, for instance, are we just here to have this conversation, or does our voice really, really count? Because one of the things about tokenism that I have realized is a young person that has been fortunate to go to school is you will get platforms, like they will just put you there so that like I said, to just look like they are conforming to the new norm that say, oh, you must have women, you must have young people, you must have Black people, and it is a beauty when you are a combination of all three. But we are also at that point of our lives that sitting at those tables are not just enough. It's either you create a space for us at the table, or we will bring our table and force you people to listen to us.
The problem in our country, in Iraq, is that the poor education system, like the graduate people are graduating from colleges, even if they were engineers or sometimes doctors, without being able to have a fluency in English, which is now one of the most important and basic skills for the youth in order to find a decent job. Let's say not in the governmental sector, but in the private sector. That's why we have a lot of protests, and let's say 70% of them is the youth who cannot find jobs. They are asking the government in order to supply them, in order to obtain job opportunities for them in the governmental sector. But the problem is the governmental facilities cannot have this large number of people.
First of all, in many contexts, young people are not necessarily going to be even considered as partners, or as someone that needs to be around the table. But then worse than that, you have many contexts where there's going to be, a lot of threats and a lot of repression against them as well. So I think that it's important always to consider what a safe space is for young people to participate, and also how sometimes, violence can come from other types of factors. We do not really often think about first of all, about what their perception of violence is and what is the violence against them.
As soon as we realize as youth that change isn't going to come until we make it happen, then that's when we're going to start making some progress. And on the other hand, for all of the folks that are older than us and came before us, I think we need help. We need allyship. We can't do it on our own, and that can look a million different ways. That can be saying, here's this contact, or, oh, I could represent, but you know what? I want to put youth at the forefront. I want to give a platform to youth. I want to amplify. I want to have these conversations. And most importantly, I want to listen, because as youth, I'm always listening. I'm always trying to learn. And one thing is hearing something, and one thing is listening to something.
Which means we each have a responsibility to think about not doing a competitive approach to how we have leadership, but a cooperative approach to how we have leadership, which means we aren't battling each other to go to the top. We're supposed to be going forward together. And I think it's important for all of us to keep that in mind when we know that in a space where there is a lot of competition, we're all trying to get stability, we're all trying to make our impact in the world. It doesn't have to be at the expense of taking away those rights or privileges or powers from other people. We can do it collaboratively with them.
Thank you all. It's fun to see the event recapped in that way, to just hear the snippets of it. It makes me, every time I listen to that highlights video, it makes me just want to go back to the full video and listen and learn more and hear from some of the folks who are in this room and some folks who are outside this room. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope it inspired you briefly as we go into our conversations for today. So our conversation for today, we're going to use a model that is pretty well known, but if it's not known to you, that's okay. We're going to explain its process now. So we're going to be doing what is titled a World Cafe model. So if you're in person, a World Cafe model, folks usually split up and go to different tables and engage in conversation. And there's a lot of switching, and it can look like just sheer chaos in person, but it's an organized chaos of sense. And so as Sarah and I were dreaming of what we wanted this space to be, the more we started talking about what we wanted, we found ourselves kind of landing back in this space of wanting to try to recreate in some way the organized chaos of a World Cafe model, where we're able to dive deeply in conversation with one another on several different topics, all happening at the same time. And so we want to invite you into this world of organized chaos with us as we dream and talk and plan and think together over a myriad of different topics. And so just to give you all, I'm going to share my screen again in 1 second. Just to give you all just a little bit of background information into what we'll be doing. So there will be 4 topics, and then we'll have a Spanish speaking room as well. The first topic will be dispelling the myths and assumptions of young people. The second will be around meaningful inclusivity. The third will be addressing youth unemployment. And the fourth will be addressing intergenerational dialogue and working together. And then we'll have one room, which is a Spanish speaking room, that will touch on each of the different topics as well. And so what you'll find is that each of these themes came out of our previous event, the Let's Talk event. And as we were planning this, we said, here are the things we think could be great for further and deeper conversation. And so we want to invite that deeper conversation as well. So the breakout rooms will open. You'll see the different breakout rooms. When the rooms open up, you'll see a box like this and inviting you to join. You actually have the freedom to choose whichever conversation you would like to be a part of. And so with each of the rooms, you can click on whichever one you would like to join at that time as well. If they don't open properly, you can just go down to the bottom of your screen to see breakout rooms and join whichever room you want then. And when we will invite you after 10 minutes, if you would like to switch conversations, topics, you see something else that you wanted to join in again, to be able to switch rooms. And so to leave a breakout room, there'll be a button on the bottom right of your screen, which will say leave room. And then you'll click leave breakout room, and it'll take you back to the main screen for you to be able to select a new room. We really want to encourage you to visit all the different topics over the 40 minutes, to engage in different conversations that maybe would not be your natural go-to, to say, this is what I'm really passionate about. But we want to hear your voice. We want to invite you into a deeper conversation around all of the different topics. What our thought is that at the end of this, because we'll have the collection of wisdom of this group of people, we'll be able to make a toolkit to send out to each of you after this with information and resources about each topic that we talk about, for you to go in your own context and feel empowered to bring about meaningful youth participation in whatever your context may be. So Sarah, did you want to open the breakout rooms? And then, well, let me ask first, does anyone have any logistical questions about moving between breakout rooms, anything like that? I will be staying in this space to help you get to wherever you need to go. So don't feel any sense of panic about not understanding everything perfectly. I have the ability to help you navigate the different rooms. So any questions that you all have? No? Well, then I invite you to embrace this opportunity for dialogue. And Sarah, thank you for getting us kicked off with the breakout rooms.
It was a very fruitful conversation, I would say, and my group changed 3 times. And I don't think that we have enough time for me to dig deeper into every assumption that people mentioned, but I am really happy that each of the groups that joined me brought a different perspective and a different assumption completely. And what I want to share with everyone is that a lot of the conversation that we had revolved around practical examples and like problems that this assumption brings to the table, either young people being assigned only a certain job that they're gonna do because of an assumption of what they know and what they're able to do, or young people being needing to be reprogrammed because they do not have the wisdom in order to be able to be a part of a certain conversation, or young people just not being a part of certain conversations because it's not being considered as a youth topic. And there's so many other assumptions that that people mentioned, and I'm looking forward to adding all of this to the toolkit that we mentioned at the beginning, because it's just important to bring more consciousness to the topic. And this is something that Sally mentioned in our group, how to make sure that we actually raise our consciousness and make these meaningful conversations an everyday process. And something that I just wrapped up my conversation with Heidi at the end was the role of spirituality and religion in questioning these assumptions, and the role of children, not just youth as like from 12 to, I don't know, 30 something, but children starting from a very early age and helping them question their own position in the world. And I am deeply inspired and moved by everything that people shared in the groups. And thank you so much for your contributions. I will be happy to write all of these notes down and send them back to Ezra and Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tahil, meaningful inclusivity.
Yes, so I was really thankful to Vincent and to all of the participants who were able to join the room, because it gave a lot to think about when it came to the idea of how inclusivity is not just about involving people for the sake of involving them and making sure you mark a checkbox. It was really about making sure that you could include them in every part of the process, and to also make sure you reflect on the idea of what that reciprocity looks like. So we got to talk a bit about tokenism, where in many cases people try to include people just because they help bring in a perspective that you just want to fulfill, rather than hearing the depth at which you need to know about the nuance of that individual. And one thing that a couple of things that we've learned to do when trying to avoid tokenism are making sure that your intentions on bringing people in from different communities are very clearly defined, and that you have an open-mindedness as to how you engage that diversity and make sure that they feel included and welcomed in the various roles that you want them to fulfill. So it's not just making sure that, oh, that person is a young person, so they must be good at technology, so we'll make them do all the tech stuff. That should not be your process of thought. Your process of thought should be, oh, let me listen and see what they're interested in, what they're good at, and let me see how we can plug them into those, living into those strong suits. And one really good example of that was brought in by Heidi, who's a part of our Think Round CC here in North America, who had mentioned that, you know, many of the folks that guide the wisdom within the spaces of creating art are elder women who are artists themselves. But being able to strike the energy that comes with sharing wisdom between people is also the fact that seniors who may not be as engaged or interested in doing things engage with younger people and find the energy to be able to do the work that they want to do together. And that speaks a lot to not just the artwork that they put together, but the emphasis on environmental stewardship that they're trying to really strive for when it comes to fighting for water, for arid land, and for so many other resources. And Diana sort of actually took it further by saying that when it comes to understanding how we engage in those spaces, it's important to remember that everyone has something to share, which means everyone has to not only have the propensity to speak, but you also must have the propensity to listen. And if you don't learn to do both of those things, then you won't have an engaging space to be able to make change.
Thank you, Tahil.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm excited to learn more about what your group is doing. And I know that we'll all benefit from the wisdom that was shared in your group and what will eventually come out in the toolkit. So thank you. I'm gonna pass it over to Isaac for addressing youth unemployment.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you, Isra. It's been, it was a really important topic, I would say, because youth unemployment has been unemployment in a total sense has been more rampant since the pandemic began. So we had Yam in our group, and then later Diana and Vincent joined. We had fruitful conversations, and some points or some solutions that that we came up with is especially encouraging the skills of youngsters at this especially during this pandemic age or the coming up generation. Learn new skills, different become the conventional ways of opportunities. It's not just the only way that we can go with. So to figure out opportunities, to figure out to adapt to the present is something as youngsters we are able to do. What we did in the past 1 year, if 100 jobs went out, thousands of opportunities came in, and there has been a flow of more ways in which we can provide ourselves employment or be ourselves employed. So that's something that we have to figure out, that we can figure out and that's something we were talking about also. And the dignity of labor is something, is another point that we were thinking, that we were speaking about, especially that there's nothing like one job is above or below one the other. And it's something when we understand such a concept, it's everything that we do has a purpose. And if we love what we are doing, whatever work that we do makes sense. So it's about loving what we actually do. And Vincent, and Diana, we had a conversation where, from the perspective of an employer, how we, reading through resumes, or when resumes or nominations come in, how we go through it and how we should provide opportunities to experienced guys, experienced youth, or maybe freshers who would like to get the chance and to just learn themselves, learn how to do whatever, just all these steps, and adapt and grow. So that's something, again, it's like the exact words as Vincent mentioned, it would be like to sell ourselves to the employer, how we even without the experience, how we can be a positive structure or a positive figure for their company or or firm or anything. So basically it was good, and I'm happy to have this conversation with everyone. So yeah.
Thank you. Sharon with intergenerational dialogue.
Right. So our topic as well was something very interesting and central to pretty much the interfaith engagement and the scene that we all find ourselves in. So what was interesting is that in my group, we discussed about the tools, and some of the tools that can promote this that we shared through our experiences was doing it through art, in order to build creative ownership, through different means of listening, and also, of course, to have a sense of awareness and openness to the differences that we all have. So I think that all of this led to giving us an opportunity to sharpen our commitment in building interfaith dialogue. So I'm very excited to write up more about this for the toolkit that we will provide after this talk.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. And last but not least, Augustina.
Hi. So we were in the Spanish room with Rosalia, Alice, and Vasu, and we basically talked about all the issues and got to this important conclusion about your community, to stop fragmenting youth and the adults or the kids and the very old people, just be able to get to create a bridge between one another and just share experiences and motivation and create a balance between the generations and try to work as a community to grow as a community, as a world, as an individual, and to be able to create this engagement between all of them, not only youth or adults, but between all the people in the world. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you are, what you want, and what you believe, just to work together and be able to create a space where you can open yourself and you can discuss or debate something, and that debate go home saying, okay, what did I learn today? How can I do this better? how can that, like, how what I had, what I talked about today, how can I use that and grow as an individual, and how can I take what I learned to my community, to my individuals, to everyone that I know? How can we grow in that way? Like, always be thinking on how to be better, and how can I have this motivation? Like, I'm not feeling motivated. Okay, what I do? I go to my academic community and I speak to my professors and I say, hey, I'm not motivated today. What can I do? How can I be better? How can I grow? Or go to your family. Hey, I have this issue. How can I do better? How can I grow? Or go to the family community and say, hey, what can I do? How can I grow? What do you need? How can I do to help you to feel motivated? How can I use your experiences to be better? Or how can you use my experiences as a youth or as a woman or as a student that can make you feel better, make you better, still like help you to grow? Because it doesn't matter what your age is, you will always grow and you will always need your community to grow. So the conclusion that we got was like, yes, all the issues were super important, but the most important thing is to be with people who will help you to walk, will help you to build. What we need, what we want is to build, to be better, to take care of the world, to take care of our society. So it's like we got to this conclusion to walk together and grow together. It doesn't matter your age, your gender, your religion, your ideas, just be together and be better.
Well, I couldn't say it better myself. That was a fantastic summary and a fantastic way for us to end. So thank you all so much for your participation. And I know that I was not able to participate in breakout rooms helping with the technology aspect, but hearing all the richness of conversations that you all had, I'm just so excited for where we are building together and how we can continue to make a difference in this world for the better. So thank you so much for each of you. Kind of next steps from here, as all of the different notes get put together, we'll then organize a toolkit to be sent out to everyone so that you can have as you all go into your own spaces and are thinking about ways that you can continue to build meaningful youth participation in whatever your context may be. And one final invitation from me is that if you haven't already become a member of URI, either through as an individual or either as a part of a cooperation circle, it would be a great time for you to do so. I am dropping in the chat. Oops, hold on one second. I am dropping in the chat how you can go there and become a member in whatever way you would like to become a member. Sarah, is there anything that you would like to add to close us out?
I just want to echo the thank you. And I love that, Augustina, you said, to be with people who help you grow. And when I look at this screen, like, these are the people that, help me grow. And so thank you. Yes. Thank you so much to all of you, and particularly our facilitators of Samira, Tahil, Isaac, Farina, Vincent, Sharon, Augustina, and Vasu for the translation as well. Vasu has been translating and is always a delight. And on the last thing that Augustina also raised was, what did I learn today? And I'm just wondering, as you kind of leave the room, if you want to put something in the chat of what you've learned today, please go ahead, because it's always that question of where do we, what are we taking from here? Please, I invite you just to do that as a way of closing. So yeah, muchas gracias, and yeah.